proposed resource development projects, potentially harmful impacts of government decisions on women and girls are not well understood or mitigated. On sex discrimination in the Indian Act. Despite commitments to end sex discrimination in the Indian Act by restoring status to Indigenous women and their descendants, piecemeal amendments to the Act have not succeeded in restoring status to all those affected. Canada is currently considering amendments to the Act. New amendments must fully end sex discrimination in the Act. On access to justice. Women face multiple barriers to accessing justice to enforce their legal rights. For example, women are the main users of civil legal aid, but financial support for legal aid has dropped dramatically since the 1990s. Income tests for eligibility mean that only women living well below the poverty line can access legal aid, forcing many women to represent themselves in complex family law matters, even in cases where they must face their abusers. On extraterritorial obligations. Some Canadian companies have taken advantage of weak environmental and Canadian human rights laws in the countries where they operate to carry out their activities in a manner inconsistent with Canadian environmental and human rights standards. Women outside of Canada who have had their rights violated by Canadian companies operating in the country where they reside often face significant barriers to access to justice both at home and in Canada. Accountability gaps remain since Canada has not responded to calls to more aggressively regulate Canadian companies and ensure that victims of corporate-related human rights abuses have access to remedies in Canada, in particular through an extractive sector ombudsman. On the Court Challenges Program, we welcome the Government of Canada's promise to restore the Court Challenges Program. However, it remains unknown if the newly reinstated Court Challenges Program, which provided funding for equality test cases, will be expanded to cover challenges claimed under Section 7 of Canada's Charter of Rights and Freedoms to include economic equality issues related to poverty. It is also unclear whether the newly instated program will fund equality rights challenges to provincial, territorial, and federal laws, and whether the independent community-controlled structure of the program will be retained. On the BC Human Rights Commission. In the province of British Columbia, the Human Rights Commission was eliminated in 2002, leaving no public body mandated to prevent discrimination or examine systemic human rights violations. Thank you.